Hey, Kiora, and welcome to Resett TV Talk Season 3. My name is Farhana, and I am your host for today. Today we have CEO of Aotearoa Resettled Community Coalition, Abann Yor. Welcome, Abann.
Thank you, Farhana.
Thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
So, today we're going to talk about your journey as a leader, educator, and community advocate for migrant communities in New Zealand. I know you're originally from South Sudan, and you play a significant role in the integration and resettlement of migrant communities in New Zealand. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey, how you got here?
Thank you, Farhana, for having me at the Resett TV Talk. My journey started when I was a teenager, I can say, and being a young man as well in displacement in Sudan, and also being a father in Syria, Damascus, and also arriving in New Zealand was a nuclear family. When I arrived in New Zealand, I have my two lovely daughters and my wife, Mary. So my journey took me 19 years, I can say. But it wasn't an easy one, and also at the same time, it's not the same like any other journeys of forced migration to New Zealand. So as many knows, I'm someone who are critical when it comes to use of terminology. So what I do know, New Zealand have two pathways of migration. One is a voluntary migration, and one is a forced migration, which is I come through. Just nail it down through humanitarian program. So this is where I come to New Zealand. My journey started when I was in Syria. I seek asylum in Syria, and then I end up in New Zealand through United Nations and the Refugee Quota program. So arriving in New Zealand was no knowledge about New Zealand at the time. What I do now, that New Zealand population was 4 million, achieved more than population of New Zealand. At the same time, I do know New Zealand speak 3 languages. It's a main languages. One is a Maori language, English, and sign language. Also, at the same time, it's a green country. And I just symbolize like South Sudan, because we, in Sudan, we having South Sudan is different from the north part of it. So at the same time, that's what I know, and I come to New Zealand. So arriving in New Zealand as a new settler, I find there's a lot of a challenge, but compared to what I experienced in Sudan and Syria, it's not comparable. So those challenges is just about finding a job, and also trying to catch up with New Zealand accent. I have a little bit of English, but it's not with a New Zealand accent. So that's kind of the challenge every new arrival they face at the time. So when I arrived here, I was lucky enough to have South Sudanese community who are settled in New Zealand. Things was in Auckland, some of other cities in Wellington. So when I settled in Auckland here, I joined the community. I find out as well there's some of the gap that need to be fulfilled where the community can come together. So that's where I start.
Okay.
Involving in a community.
Great. So you've been in New Zealand for about 18, 20 years now?
18 years.
18 years, yeah. And can you share with us a little bit about your first impressions of this country when you got here? What did you think about this place? I mean, it's really different to South Sudan.
There were first things when I arrived here is because our first accommodation was a Mangri Resettlement Center. Mm-hmm. And when I hear the word that, because within a resettlement center, there's overwhelming information there. And when we have some of our introduction and information we have, it's not a funny thing, but it become real afterward. When they were saying in New Zealand here, the women that first, and the second children, the third dog, and the man is last. And I said, well, what does that mean? It's no full information to understand it. And from there, I thought to myself, this is alarming to me.
Yeah.
At the same time, in the center there, they call us as a refugee. I say, I have a permanent resident. How do you call me a refugee? I already lost the refugee status and I have a New Zealand permanent resident. And this is where I start questioning myself, what is going on here? And then when I come to the community, I find out that the social welfare system, accessing social welfare system, this is another challenge. I find out that. And what made the matter worse is that I don't understand how it works. Yeah. So I've been put under, at the time, I think they called it unemployment benefit, which is means you need to find a job.
Yep.
So that is where I find out the different challenge or new challenge I have faced in New Zealand here. So that's my first expression of New Zealand when I arrived. Yeah.
And then you obviously decided the best way to go forward was to empower yourself, and you went on to get an education locally. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What did you study? What did you learn about?
Yeah, one of the challenges I faced, which is a questioning at the time, is they call frontline managers at work and income. Mm-hmm. When they told me you need to find a job, and the employers that ask New Zealand qualification, New Zealand work experience, and I said, I think those people that joke, I am here just 3 months. How do I will have all those kind of what they're asking on me? Then I find out that this is something I need to challenge myself. Then I start employment in skill English, preparation for trade, automotive engineering. And from there, I find out that also doing community work, I was like, I got opportunity of scholarship studying non-for-profit management and leadership.
Yeah.
And at the same time, being a full father, at the same time being full student studying different institutions, because I was studying the Unitec. At the same time, I am studying Manukau Institute of Technology, MIT. Yeah. So to manage that and a community work was just like a crazy thing. It's been the family that were worried at the time. And I was saying, just help me to go out of this, because I took it as a challenge.
Yeah.
And when I find a qualification and also I have work experience, it doesn't sound that's what I've been asked for. It's very different. And it's turned up that is about who do you know.
So not what you know.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest, I think, culture shocks about New Zealand, is about how small, I guess, the community is, and that connections, the importance of connections and networking. And what else did you find was a complete culture shock to you? Like, what was different? I mean, coming from Africa myself, I know our cultures are completely different. We have a very almost wholesome view of a community, society, family, and everything's very individualistic. What else was an absolute shock to you about this place?
I think being a part of integration process, I find the cultural norm of New Zealand is that there is a two worldview. Is when I studied computing at Tiwananga Aotearoa, the worldview of Mora is different from the worldview of Western education. So I find myself, my worldview aligned closely with Maori, where I come from, because I define myself as a native African and they are indigenous. At the same time, confronting issue. This is the culture shock for me, because within my interaction with a lot of service providers who are working with ARCC, they always, you can see the elephant in the table, and when you talk about it, you will be in trouble. And I thought to myself, there is something is missing here, whether I don't understand how to address the issue, but I find out that it is for Kiwi just to smile and all those stuff, but inside is not the way how it look like. So that's what a little bit shocked to me, because what I'm trying to say here is that it's important, if we disagree in some things or we agree in something, we need to work it out and just move on.
Yeah.
But people are just holding things inside. It's affecting our health and affecting our spiritual element of our mental. So for me, it's just the way how to just to talk things and move on. So this is one of the culture shock for me.
Yeah, it's interesting that the Kiwi way of things is she'll be all right. You know, somebody will do it. Somebody else.
Avoiding confront.
Exactly. Exactly. How did you connect with locals? How did you connect with them when you got here first?
Okay. Connecting with local is not an easy thing because one of the important of culture element is that connecting with local is a start from your neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened is that was my neighbor, and it was a lovely someone family. And when I moved to the neighborhood, it was a little bit challenge, and definitely they have their own way of just seeing things are different. What is that person, where it come from, and all this stuff. They have their own trauma in their own way.
Yeah.
So for me to make myself really very close to them, it was an incident that happened to my neighbor. The car broke down, and did I fix it? And when I say they want to pay me, I say no, and they said, "Oh, what is that?" And I said no, and they said, "Why is that?" And I said, "Part of our culture. You are my neighbor. You consider my brother."
Mm.
And they said, "How is that?" And I said, "If there is something happen to my children now or me, my brothers in Africa and family that can't save me. You're the one who will save me." In that concept. And he said, "Oh, thank you." And then there was an occasion where we're having a community barbecue in my house. Being a community representative, then we share the barbecue, and when we give them a plate, this is break down the barriers for them to see us as different. And then when they have the occasion, I join them and talk to them. So what I have done here, I secure a safe environment for my children, because when children involved in playing, the children, they don't have label like what we have as adults.
Yes.
So I want to make sure my children are safe. And to make my children safe, I need to start with my neighbors. So this is the mechanism I've been able to explore by bringing my culture alive, to integrate to my neighbors. Then when I have done that, then I've been able to engage with the other stakeholders in terms of involving in a community. So that's the way how I find my way how to...
So was there like a turning point where you finally started to feel, you were integrating into this community by connecting with your neighbors and immediate community?
My turning point was the time I engaged with many Kiwis, in particular one of the ladies, which is I call my sister from another mother. So we were working at RYAN. RYAN stands for Refugees Youth Action Network, and it was being run by Resett, New Zealand. So she always, when we're having young people issue, because at the time I took the issue of being a youth worker is very serious, and especially for those young people who born in New Zealand here and they've been labeled as refugees and all those unnecessary terminology they use, and I was very serious. And then one day she told me to sit down and we talk about, because she's my team leader, and said, "Abann, can you take me through of your thinking?" And then I explained to her, and then she got it. And when she got it, from that time, she was saying, or acknowledging the way how I share my life experience with people who never been in that life experience. And she said, "You're right, we should not be able to call them a refugee because already they are not there." And one example I told them is that if you call them refugees, ask them for their identity, because refugees is a legal status has been given by United Nations, but I don't have United Nations here in New Zealand.
Yep.
So if you labeling those people in that way, it's not really we doing justice to them. So from there, then we become a very close friend. That's the way I see myself. I also fit to Kiwi culture. And also the first things I was doing is that we went for lunch, for example. And then I went there to pay for her lunch, and it was like French. And I said, "Next time you're going to be able to pay for me here." And then she asked me, "This is normal for your culture?" And I said, "Yeah, normal our culture. And especially if the man pay for a woman, and that will be something that's really important. I should say, no, in Kiwi culture, it doesn't work that way.
It's all about independence, isn't it?
Yeah. So I said, I didn't take it from that angle. Just, I took it from just friendly manner, and also seeing you are my sister, and I have something to offer. And from there, I think this is where I find myself is slowly fitting to Kiwi culture.
Yeah. It's so interesting our different cultures and how we go through just daily things, the difference. And also the importance of as mentors and people accepting and understanding your way of thinking. So that was part 1. And I think the next part 2, we're going to talk about advocacy, or your role in advocacy, and the importance of establishing a good community of practice when it comes to migrant communities.
Thank you.
Okay, kia ora, and welcome to part 2 of our podcast for today, where we're going to be talking about Abann's advocacy work and the importance of establishing a community of practice among resettled migrants. So, Abann, tell me, in terms of ARCC, what have been the biggest challenges that you've faced in supporting resettled communities?
Thank you, Farhana, for the question. Always people talk about challenges, but also there is opportunity, because you can make a challenge to become opportunity. So with ARCC, I think the diversity ARCC brings is all itself is a challenge. So has been over, I think, 8 years of just trying to make the organization work. But the first things the ARCC was facing is that having just only executive committee without having operational, it was a challenge from the beginning. So every 2 years we have a change of leaders, and those 2 years is really, when it comes to the election, there is a lot of disagreement, because service providers always, they interfere in community matters, because they were looking for people who are going to be easy for them to work with in the resettlement sector. So that's the challenge ARCC has been facing. At the time, I think I have taken opportunity of that challenge, where I went on and studied non-for-profit management and leadership, the scholarship, which, as I mentioned before. Mainly, I focus on ARCC when I was studying. At the time, it was well fit in terms of the structure, the organizational change, voluntary papers, and leadership change, and accounting, legal issue. Those papers I've been able to work on ARCC, and especially how the organization run in New Zealand when it comes to incorporated society contact. So having that kind of qualification is helped me to be able to shift ARCC the way how it is. So before the ARCC, the way how it is today, I have a role of being just representative of South Sudanese community. At the same time, I ran a youth portfolio with ARCC, and also being a vice chair for 2 terms, and then afterward I become a chairperson. So when I become a chairperson, this is where the shift of ARCC is having a two-body organization. This is where I was saying that I was lucky to have Tyndall Foundation support, where we change being just only one body structure, where we having just executive committee. We change to having a two-body structure, where we have the board and we have the operational. So when AS has been mandated in that way, all the members, they were mandating me is that you need to be a general manager for the organization, but you need to find the money to pay yourself, because it's a voluntary work.
Yeah.
You understand why we shift AS the way how it looked like. Then I've been able to have 2 days a week. After that, what Tyndall Foundation giving us is for caution of support, went to ARCC, where we employed the first administrator for 2 days a week, and for me it was 5 hours a week. And then the Tyndall Foundation also, they have give a funding for another organization to come and build the capacity of ARCC. And this is how the ARCC shipped. So we start off just working on constitution and also financial system and also the structure. So we've been able to shift that in a way how New Zealand non-for-profit should work based on our constitution. When we have that, then I have some of the people who been able to give me a hand in terms of mentoring, in terms of coaching. Then now Tyndall Foundation, they've been able to say, okay, now you have a structure in the place.
Yeah.
But to move forward, also, we're not going to stop from here. We're going to give you another support as well in order for you to pay yourself, because you are professional and no one outside there supporting you. We will give you more resources. This is how the ARCC become an organization that support the community and in terms of appropriate advocacy work. And also from there, foundation notes come along as well and support ARCC plus lottery and other funders as well. So ARCC become the organization that have a collective voice, address the issue of the community in a different level. This is how I become really involved in the community from different diverse background of migrant in Auckland.
Okay, so you spoke about various sponsors or partners that ARCC has collaborated with. And the fact that you've received support from such big organizations, is testament to the importance of the work that you were doing at ARCC. Can you tell me a little bit about the projects, programs that you have running at the moment for the community?
Yeah, currently we have established 4 ongoing programs, which is Women Leadership Network, Members Leadership Network, and Youth United Voice, and Elderly, which we call a Senior Social Hub. So what does that mean for those programs? It just is having a platform where we consult them. When the issue are related to women, we have a woman already has been organized. When issue related to community leaders or across the community, we have a member leadership network, which is monthly we meet. And also we have youth, where we also consult if there are issues about youth. This is where we consult. And as well, we have the elderly issue as well as being addressed in some of elderly in our community who've been just left behind from the service provider, no one looking after them.
Yes.
The first project we used to have Bridging the Gap project, which is participatory action research, and has been run for 3 years. We have other project as well, is Eritrea Collective, is microfinance project. And we have also Learning Community Hub with the Ministry of Education, which is a project also. Currently we run active project, which is a community leadership coaching program. So what does that mean actually was the consultation from the community. They were asking that for long overdue in terms of how they can be able to gain personal knowledge to run their own communities.
Yeah.
And this is where ARCC being able to deliver that to them to make sure that they're having a knowledge of incorporated society, understanding how incorporated society framework work, and also understanding about the fundings and fundraisings, understanding about accountability and transparency, also having a better understanding about what leadership actually means, because some of the community members, they miss understanding what the leadership is about. And sometimes some people miss managing the thing they don't know. But with the project, they've been able to find a way and understandings how they're going to be able to move forward with their organization. So this is the opportunity ARCC is trying to respond to the community. And what drives us always is about consulting the community. They tell us the issue, which is we can be able to give a hand to them.
Yeah. So you spoke about member leaderships network, youth leadership and women's leadership, and it seems like you've almost created like a mini community of practice for people to come together, share ideas, concerns, and discuss solutions. Can you tell us a little bit more about that model, how it works for ARCC?
Yeah, I think, as I said before, when we started as ARCC in 2007, we have the opportunity, again, from the Settling In, which is run by MSD team at the time. So they've been able to support ARCC to have 3 years strategic direction plan. So at the time, we identify that we have disadvantaged members of our community. One thing we were identified was a woman. When we're having a monthly meeting, the majority of participants at the monthly meeting, they are men. Mm-hmm. And the women, they miss out. We have just some of the women attend there, but the majority of the women, they are not there. So at the time, we thought to say, okay, this is not the way how we should be able to go. We need to accommodate the cultural background of what make ARCC community is. Then we create a women group. With that women group, it become very clear the need of the woman. It become more greater than the need of the leaders. So we went and partnered with Auckland Regional Migrant Services, which is they are service providers for migrants, and at the time it used to be resource center in Three Kings. So we partner with them, and clearly we come in a conclusion to say the women, they need a lot of different projects. But under that women group, we will be able to make that. Then we done a need assessment with those women. Some women come very strongly. They want to do cooking. Some women, they want to do knitting. Some women, they want to do sewing. It's a lot of projects come out from that. And another one was the English language barrier with some women. So this is where we create Safari Play Group. So the leaders at ARC, they said, we know our children, one day they're going to go mainstream school. But those mothers, they left behind in terms of English. So we create that Safari, while the women, they bring the children to play center, then the women, they're going to be having opportunity to go to English classes. So we done it very well with ARMS, and that project is last more than 5 years. But when ARMS is stand down, and then it become different to other organizations, our organization, that project did not really responding well to the community. Yeah. So that is some of the gap ARC is trying to fulfill. It's the same thing to youth as well. And youth within our community, majority of them are just not participating in their community or organization. And there is a big gap, and we call it, at the time, we have a project called Generational Gap.
Yeah.
Within that generational gap, we've been able to hear the voices of the young people. Before Generation Gap, we have a project which I told you before I was a youth coordinator for. It's called Big Brother and Big Sister Project. And also it's a participatory action research as well we have done with the community. All those voices from those affected community members within ARCC, they give us a platform of clearly what the young people they're looking for. At the time, I think that's the one thing that encouraged me, is that they don't have someone who are there for them to listen to them.
Yeah. Always
they've been judged in whatever they do. And this is one thing that encouraged me, that how I will be able to support young people in terms of their education or finding the job. Because sadly, and majority of the young people in our community, whether you find a father figure is missing or mother figure is missing in their life due to the conflict in their country of origin.
Yeah.
So they become something within a New Zealand context. It's a missing part of how the family should be function. Yeah. So this is something I've been able to also to fulfill as well, to be someone who can add value to that.
So in the next part, we're going to talk a little bit more about your coaching program and how you mentor the next generation of leaders. Before we jump to that section, I want to know, you work with some very sensitive and often traumatic situations or people who have been through some severe trauma. And you are working to bridge that gap of, expectations and reality. And that can be a very stressful environment of trying to make sure that people's needs are met. How do you stay resilient? How do you make sure your cup is filled at the end of the day?
That's a personal question.
It is. But that's really important in leadership, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's really, what helped me out is that I have a discipline and that discipline as well is being guided by some of the principle I have. It's called knowing, doing, and sharing. Okay. What's in that principle, I always, if I find a challenge, I will try to get to know it and then do it. And when I find a way of doing that, I've been able to have a moment where I need to isolate myself, whether I'm going to be reading a book or whether I'm going to be listening to someone which is inspiring me, I need to listen to. Yeah. So those are the mechanisms I always use. And one of the challenge of just being yourself and being courageous or being someone who knows who you are and being the space where I am, always you find yourself in an isolation space, but that is the result of what you do. And you need to accept that, because what is happening is that I think my brain work in that kind of a capacity when you are isolated, because the society we live in is very challenged. And always I categorize people in a different way. You find the more educators in the academic world, and also you find people who never even go to school one day, but they have two type of education, this is my own personal analysis in terms when it comes to education type. Informal and non-formal education. Those people, they don't have qualification, but the way how they deal with day-to-day life, it helped me because they're original people. Yeah. Compared to people with formal educations, and the information you hear from them and the way how they act sometimes is just putting me back.
Yeah.
And that is what encouraged me to have a personal education because personal education helped me to overcome all the stress and all the challenge I'm facing in day-to-day life. And one of the strategy things or tactic as well I use as well, while I'm helping individuals who are in a situation which is a hard situation, I think some of this stuff, they know it when people come to the office and having tears in their eyes and helping them and all. And afterward, they leave the office just smiling. At the same time I'm helping them, it's at the same time I'm helping myself, you see. So that's the way how it really should be done, because when I put myself in their shoes and they put themselves in my shoes, what we have done there, we exchange our stories. Yeah. Because the technique of me allowing other people to open up is that for me to open to them first. And that is really, really a very important element, because being in a humanity space, you don't have any label. You don't put label to anything. And that is allowing other people to open up and express who they are, because already they identify the space they're in. It's a very secure space. So this is one of the elements that I use to help myself how to overcome the stress. Even sometimes I might be stressful and someone in the door want to get help. I will turn my own off and then just deal with that. But while I'm doing that, I will find a way how to overcome that one of a personal challenge I have.
Yeah. I mean, just from my personal reflections, you are an absolutely amazing leader. I've never seen you say no to anyone.
Which is I need to start to say no.
Yes, you need to learn to say no. And I remember saying this to you a few months ago in the office. That, I always seen you as the giant of the sector because you were a disruptor. You didn't play by the rules. And it's so important sometimes to challenge people on what they think is right and normal. So the next section, we're going to talk a little bit about your mentoring and coaching program and how you are developing future leaders.
Thank you.
Okay, Kiora, and welcome to part 3. We're going to be talking a little bit about your mentoring and coaching of future leaders in your community. Now, I know you've worked with a lot of migrant and former refugee communities. How do you approach mentoring and coaching these future leaders?
I think before they become future leaders, they are the leaders of today. Because the future starts today.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes the situation can make its own way. It was a need within the community which they asked for. And as I said before, some of the leaders, they haven't clear what they want to do. Some of them, they don't have clear. So mentoring and coaching, they're two different functioning or two different roles where we need to help community in a way how they're going to be able to pursue the leadership they want to help themselves and help the community. So for me, it's very simple to describe coaching is like when you have a clear road. For example, you have a destination A, you are aiming for destination B, is very clear. And also a mentor, like, the sign on the road when they tell you where to go.
Yeah.
That's the role of the mentor. And the role of the coach is like the road where taking you to where you're going. So some of the leaders, they're having a very clear distinguish between all those two roles, and some of them, they don't. And one of the important of my encouragement to those in coaching program is that focusing on self-education is the most important, because the more you know yourself, the more you understand your ability, what you can be able to give to others is very important, because leadership, I think, have a different definition for different papers, for different people.
Yeah.
So the way how we do leadership is just like taking responsibility in the process of learning how to live. And most important, how we manage life progression in terms of the progress of every individual of us, whether you are old or young or whatever, different genders. So this is the part of responsibility which is individual need to take. So having that opportunity, I think it gives some of the community representative and leaders a way of get to know how to be able to enforce the knowledge they have, because having a knowledge without practicing it is not a knowledge.
Yeah.
But how you're going to be able to apply in the real world, this is a very important element of the leadership coaching, is that whatever something you have and you want to share it with people, you need to be aware how you're going to be able to share it with people. Is that what the people they want? Because today some people might having assumption of, those people, this is what they need. But actually, without having engagement, without having a consultation, it's going to be very hard for you. Just your expectation or assumption on people is going to be not real. But with our community, because we are inside the community, we know what is working and what is not working.
Yep.
And also through the program we have, we've been informed what kind of the thing they need. So with the leadership coaching program, is really well articulated in terms of understanding the incorporate society framework.
Yep.
And also understanding whether if it's a trust, how the trust work, the framework of trust work. At the same time, what is the difference between governance and management is very important. An element of, because some of the community leaders, they're having an assumption that to run the organization is just about funding, but they've forgotten that about the community need and what the mandate from the community to help the organization and what are the services the organization can deliver to the community.
Yep.
But there is an area also is really misunderstood. The relationship between the leaders, which is executive committee, and their members, how they communicate with one another and making sure that that organization work properly. So those are kind of the tools the leadership coaching program is offering to the participant was in that program.
Yep.
And it's a new platform of doing that. But the participant, the way how they find it is very interesting. And also understanding as well forced migration journey to New Zealand, because everyone have a different journey how they end up in New Zealand. But how do we distract the brainwashing system that our community are just being put in a box and they live in the box that for all their life, or they live in the past and people are living in the present in a way that they just critique on their journey, and also understanding a deeper on how they end in New Zealand and what the purpose as well, where they've been in New Zealand, what their contribution is. And those are kind of the tools which is the leadership coaching program offering to.
That's just on.
Yeah.
So the importance of communication, collaboration,
negotiation, problem solving.
Yeah. Working with people rather than
working
to people or telling people what to do. Yeah. What other qualities do you look for in leaders? What do you think are important personal qualities that?
I think one of the thing that, because people are different and we need to acknowledge that, a part of communication is that for us to be diverse, we need to acknowledge that we are different. And being a different, I mean, we are diverse in different things. So that need to acknowledge that the first thing. Secondly, individual to one another, there is a different what we can offer to one another. But when it comes to the quality of leadership, is that the basic skill of leadership is you need to be a good communicator, and also the element of management, and also you need to be a problem solver, and also you need to be a good negotiator, and also you need to be able to have personal understanding about different worldviews in terms of how to deal with other people.
Yes.
And also get to know yourself in terms of how the other people they view you, because sometimes it's very easy. You might try to do things, but you don't have the confidence or brave to be able to do it, although you see it is right. But based on other people judging you, you might just give up because of that. So get to know yourself is one of the important element of having that confidence of trying to see what you can offer. But also what I can just encourage community members as well, try to come up with some of the principles, because principles sometimes might guide you as a roadmap, and they can also become as a values in terms of just try not harm anyone, even yourself. Okay. And the other thing as well, try don't take someone right or allow someone to take your right. So if you have all those very simple guide or very simple rules, you will be able to be safe. And when you are safe, other people around you as well, they're going to be safe.
Do no harm. So important. Let's talk about success stories. Do you have anything in particular, anything you're proud of when it comes to mentoring or coaching people that comes to mind?
I think it's not being proud of, but it's being part of the obligation, how you're going to be able to save others. Because for me, when I describe myself, is primarily to save other people, is that to seeing them that succeeding in whatever they've been doing as a part of my help, and I see them that succeeding. Example for those people who've been working with ARCC for many years and they move on with their life and they're thriving in other field of whatever they do. That for me is a success. So those are kind of the thing I see some people, for example, people, when I come to New Zealand here, some people, they see education is just something, they don't work on it. And in particular in my community, and I've been challenged even with some of the family members that Abann don't want to find a job. It's just taking education as excuses. And the only who understood me is just my wife. And she knows that what I'm aiming for is something I share with her. It's just to pursue the education where I'm going to be able to find the tools that enable me to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
But afterward, when I get the qualification, I think have a positive impact in my community. Everyone went back to school. And also we're having a programs. Every individual will have a qualifications. It need to be rewarding some things every year when we're having an event, and that have a positive impact in the community. People went back to have a training and find a good job. And those are kind of the things that I'm seeing it. But it's not something I need to take it for granted, or I need to take it as a pride. But this is my job to ensure if I can make a difference in someone's life. I think that's what is my role is.
And empower them to do better for themselves.
I think that's the role of leadership.
Yeah. So important. Well, thank you for this conversation. It's been absolutely amazing. I have one last question. This week is Mental Health Awareness Week in New Zealand.
Yeah.
A really important topic that affects so many people. Is there anything that you would like to say to our listeners about mental health, or the importance of, looking out for each other?
I think one of the things I can advise is that when it comes to mental health, we are a diverse nation and different cultures and different worldview. And when people talk about the topic of mental health, for some people, it's not ideal thing. It's like a taboo when it comes to the mental health. But the people are viewing in a different way. The only things I can add value to advise everyone is that it's important to ask for help, because this is one of the beautiful things I love about New Zealand, because when you ask someone that you need help, always everyone is open to help. Yes. So don't just close any issue for yourself, because you're not alone, everyone around you. I don't think that you don't have a relative or you don't have someone to talk to. New Zealand here, it doesn't matter where you come from or where your culture is, where your language is. If you ask for help, I think this is one of the things that make me proud in my journey to integration in New Zealand society. Whoever you help, you ask for help. It's not the same like the culture we come from. Sometimes we're not confident to ask for help because people might laugh on us.
Yeah.
But within in New Zealand here, people are open in terms of help. So do reach out. And I'm not going to mention in particular one organization or individual, but there are services outside there who are really calling for individuals who need help when it comes to the mental health. And mental health is something which is Kiwi that are really, really mental health and also isolation. So those are kind of the trigger of the challenge our society is facing. So it doesn't matter you're a migrant, it doesn't matter you're New Zealand born or whatever you come from. Mental health don't have a tribe or don't have nationality. So it's for everyone, and we encourage through Resett TB Talk, please try to find anyone who can give a hand. And we look forward to see how we can encourage more young, old, and just to reach out for help.
So in the description of this video, we'll add some helpline contact details, some organizations that people can reach out to if they do find themselves in a situation where they need the help.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, Abann. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today.
Thank you for Hannah for having me, and I enjoyed your interview, and thank you for sharing with me your tough question.
Kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora, thank you.